Hey everybody, it's Cookie Brothers. Recently, I heard the lyrics of a song that said, "Our sidestepping has come to be a brilliant dance, where nobody leads at all, where nobody leads at all. And the picture frames are facing down, and the ringing from the empty sound is deafening and keeping you from sleep. Breathing is a foreign task, and thinking's just too much to ask. And you're measuring your minutes by a clock that's blinking eights." I really love these words, and they really struck me because I couldn't stop thinking about the anxiety that one feels when you realize that you think you've communicated well, but you have unmet expectations. And those unmet expectations are clear indicators that nobody's leading, at least not leading well. Now, you can also add a layer to this of being anxious, of avoiding clear communication. You know, we don't want to offend somebody, or we have uncertainties and we feel insecure, but all of these things can be addressed in a healthy manner. If any of us have led for any amount of time, we know well that uncertainty is a permanent part of leadership. Jim Cousy says, "Uncertainty creates the necessary condition for leadership." And Andy Stanley says, "It is the environment in which leadership is most easily identified." You know, it can feel like leadership should be about erasing uncertainty, but the reality is true leadership learns to navigate uncertainty, because uncertainty is always going to be a component of every environment that calls for leadership. I mean, we often think that when we make a bad decision, we disqualify ourselves as leaders. But, you know, the occasional bad decision doesn't disqualify you as a leader. Making no decision will, but people will follow you if you're wrong, but they won't follow you if you're unclear. I remember reading somebody's take on this from a biblical perspective from the book of Joshua. Israel was a new nation, and Moses was the only leader that the people had ever known, and Joshua was his apprentice. Now, the problem was that when it came time for Moses to transfer the leadership onto Joshua, well, the leadership environment had already changed drastically, because when Moses was training Joshua, he trained him in the wilderness. And every lesson that Moses taught or modeled for Joshua related to wandering in the wilderness. And one of the reasons this take on this story really stuck out to me was because they described the leadership lessons like college lessons, like Wandering 101, how to deal with murmurers. Wandering 102, proper manna etiquette. Wandering 103, snakebite remedies. I thought that was fun. But now, here Joshua is. It's time for engagement of the promised land, conquering the people that live there. And he's waving goodbye to Moses as he goes off to die. And it occurs to him that he knew a lot about wandering, but not much about going to war. You know, that's some real heightened levels of uncertainty. And I love that the Lord spoke to him to be strong and courageous, not to be afraid, because God is with him. But I'm also guessing that God had to tell him those things because he was afraid. Joshua's facing something he's never faced before. He's never done this before. And the only thing he does know for certain is that God said, "Go." And that'd be hard, telling people to go, but you don't know what's going to happen. But Joshua had to give clear direction in the face of uncertainty. Now, one of the weaknesses we can face as leaders trying to be clear while being uncertain is that we can convince ourselves as leaders that we shouldn't be uncertain. We think we should be certain, and we turn around and try to pretend. But dangerous things happen when we try to pretend. First, we don't allow others' input, which is not only dangerous, it's unhealthy. And second, we're exposing our insecurity to the people that we've asked to follow us. And sharp people know when you're bluffing. So now you're diminishing respect for yourself and your leadership. The big issue with that is that uncertainty exposes a lack of knowledge, but pretending exposes a lack of character. The only person a pretender deceives is himself. So we have to express our uncertainty with confidence, then instill that confidence in those who've chosen to follow. Now, as a side note, let's remember that seeking wise counsel in the midst of uncertainty is a really good thing. Leadership is not about making decisions on your own. It's about owning the decisions once you make them. So let's be clear here, pun intended. We need to be clear even when we're uncertain. We need to remember that clarity is perceived as leadership. So clarity creates its own influence and its own momentum. We need to remember not to pretend and be okay with not knowing everything. Nobody does. Now, here's some things to ask yourself. Am I being clear in my directives? Have I allowed uncertainty to diminish my clarity? How easy is it for me to own my bad decisions? And now here's a big one. Can everyone on my leadership team answer this question? Do you know what we're doing and why? These are just some things to get your creative juices flowing, check yourself, help you to be better, clearer, more effective in your ministry and your leadership. Leadership is a brilliant dance, and someone needs to be leading. I hope it's you. Remember, we believe no one should do ministry alone. We're here for you. And if anything that I've said today has challenged you, intrigued you, and you want to grow in this area, we'd love to help you.